Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, halftime analysis, and more so than scores, this is an injury report of significant space in the college football world. Trevor Lawrence knocked out of the game with about 5 minutes left in the first half against Syracuse. Trevor Lawrence, obviously the freshman starting quarterback for Clemson. We know the situation with Kelly Bryant. Kelly Bryant, the veteran who led Clemson to the ACC championship last year, the college football playoff, and started the first 4 games of this year. Clearly a running quarterback who has limitations in the passing game, who was told this week by Dabo Swinney that he would be placed second backup on the depth chart. So Trevor Lawrence, the prized 5-star recruit, starting now as a freshman. He had received significant playing time in the first 4 games of the season. Most of you all know that. That sets the stage for what has happened against Syracuse. And this in addition to the Cuse playing an exceptional first half on defense in particular, but also moving the ball offensively deep from its own territory for another field goal to close out the first half and lead it 16-7. Clemson's a more talented team, supposed to be a better team. They've got the revenge factor of sorts as they lost it last year, their only loss of the season at Syracuse, but they are losing right now and being completely outplayed by the Orange at 16-7. And again, this is the play that's going to count if it's a lasting, significant injury. It's the one to Trevor Lawrence. Dabo Swinney's on the field with Holly Rowe right now. I bet he's saying that we have no idea the condition of Trevor Lawrence, except he was taken to the locker room. 5 minutes left in the first half. Trevor Lawrence took off out of the pocket on the left sideline. He actually stepped out of bounds before he was hit, but the whistle did not blow, so the referees missed the step out of bounds, and they continued the play, and he was hit. Don't know what the situation was in regards to, it wasn't necessarily a limb injury. It wasn't like he was holding his shoulder or a knee or an ankle or limping or anything like that else. He was able to leave the field on his own power, but after he was checked out, he was ushered off to the locker room, which tells us it could possibly be a head injury or precaution there, because if you looked at the replay, Trevor Lawrence was starting to duck the hit, and he was hit, not helmet to helmet. It was a shoulder into a helmet, but it was still a pretty violent hit taken by Trevor Lawrence. So, again, Trevor Lawrence, who, along with his Clemson teammates, had plenty to handle in the first half against the Syracuse team that is playing extremely well, especially on defense in this game. Leading 16-7 at halftime is a 25-point underdog. So Trevor Lawrence is in the locker room, hit with 5 minutes left in the second quarter. Just 2 plays before that, Chris Slayton, the big fifth-year senior defensive tackle for Syracuse, blew by the guard, just threw him aside, just blew right past him, and sacked Lawrence. And so this is the issue that Clemson now has. Dabo Swinney released Kelly Bryant, or I should say that he gave him the opportunity based on when he made the decision to go with Lawrence as the starting quarterback, that Bryant could then leave to go to another program and still have that availability based on only playing 4 games this season. And we know that's the new rule about redshirting, even with 4 games played, as opposed to 1 play played previously. So big doings in Clemson, South Carolina, with the Tigers down 16-7 and Trevor Lawrence in the locker room. Chase Bryce, looking at his 247 profile right now, dual threat quarterback who signed with Clemson in the 2017 class. He was the 17th rated pro style quarterback according to 247 Sports. He committed in December of 15, but didn't sign and start his Clemson career until 2017's recruiting cycle. He's from Loganville, Georgia. Grayson High School, 6'2", is the listing on 247 Sports. Dual threat quarterback on one listing, but also on another listing listed as a pro-style quarterback. 17th rated in the nation, number 393 prospect, number 40 prospect out of Georgia. But now potentially the Clemson starting quarterback for the rest of 2018, or we will see what the condition of Trevor Lawrence is. We certainly hope for the best with Mr. Lawrence and his health. We want everybody to stay healthy. Again, Bryce signed the first day of February 2017 with Clemson. Not necessarily a blue chip 5-star recruit, but a high recruit as a 17th rated player at his position, pro style quarterback. And Chase Bryce threw one in harm's way near the end of the first half as Syracuse completed the series in which Lawrence was knocked out. Clemson had to punt. Syracuse took the ball over, drove it the length of the field, and we'll get to the Syracuse side of this in just a second, but they drive the length of the field. And then Chase Bryce got one series with Clemson. Dabo Swinney let him throw it, and he didn't look necessarily good in that sequence. Limited time right there at the end of the first half. And Clemson got out of the first half unscathed and trailing 16-7. All right, I'll check out the live chat. And also my notes on the first half of games involving West Virginia, Texas Tech, with the Mountaineers up 28-10. Syracuse, Clemson, as we talked about. The Aggies lead the Razorbacks, Texas A&M, Arkansas. It's a 17-7 game at this point. And we also have in action, I saw a touchdown pass from Finley to Amizi a few minutes ago with North Carolina State going on top of Virginia. They're close to the half as well at 10-7 Wolfpack. All right, Jim John opens up and joins us on the chat right out of the gate. Syracuse, this is why we play the game. Absolutely. Dennis Wilson, love Dino Guts making Clemson play ball before the half. Yes. So Dino Babers didn't run out the clock. He called timeout. He made Clemson continue to play and snap the football. You never know what's going to happen. That's not dirty. It's not like if the kid takes a knee, your defensive linemen are knocking offensive linemen over and knocking him over. It's nothing like that. It's making them play out the clock and take the snaps. You've got the timeouts. Stranger things have happened. Make them snap the football. Absolutely. Mitch there, Clemson made a bad decision. All right. Let's hold off there. We talked about it the other night with Mike McDaniel from inside the ACC and ESPN Blacksburg, and he certainly had concerns about pulling Kelly Bryant from a leadership standpoint, from a chemistry standpoint, with the continuity of the offense and the clubhouse makeup. There have been some Clemson players that have come forward, and they weren't happy about the emotion of Kelly Bryant. But certainly Trevor Lawrence is a better player, and it's a passing position first and foremost. As I mentioned all off season, 8 to 9 games in the season, into the season this year in 2018, I expected Dabo Swinney to be faced with the decision. Okay, I'm 8-0, so I could go the conservative route, just run things along. We're going to win the ACC, even if we stumble once along the way, win the ACC, get to the college football playoff, and maybe I can piece something together to try to win a championship. Or I can risk the locker room, the chemistry, Kelly Bryant's morale, and as was stated during the telecast of the Clemson-Syracuse game today, that Dabo Swinney at least says, it's hard for me to believe, but Dabo Swinney has always been a very honest individual. Difficult for me to believe if I was in his situation that it would have never occurred to me that Kelly Bryant was going to consider transferring after I made that decision, especially after I did it after the 4th game of the season and didn't wait longer. That's a huge coincidence. But if Dabo Swinney is telling us that he never considered that, I'm going to believe the man. But the timing was very coincidental, in which he did not let Kelly Bryant play a 5th game for Clemson this year, and he made the decision, and Kelly Bryant made the decision to transfer. All right. So I don't necessarily know if it was a bad decision on Dabo's part to make the better player the starting quarterback. Yeah, there's more to it than just who's the better player, who's the better passer. There are clubhouse dynamics, psychology of the team, morale of the team, leadership involved, all of that. That's the reason these guys get paid at that level. If you're talking Myers, Saban, Swinney, Harbaugh money, $7 million per year. Fisher included. Those guys get paid to run the program, run the X's and O's, and also be a master psychologist and a master psychotherapist for the entire clubhouse. The ACC is definitely the worst conference in the Power Five. Mitch, I wouldn't have thought that at the beginning of the season. I would not have thought that the analysis on the ACC would be that from me and anybody else that has enough brains to watch the games and look at the scores and the results and make the comparisons. We have enough data in the book to make that conclusion. I believe that the ACC has performed worse than any conference in America. Clemson is a really, really, really good team. I would think that most of us would think that they're going to come back from this 9-point deficit, although at plus 25 on the Syracuse side, I'm certainly good with having a 9-point cushion added on to that. That aside, that Clemson's good enough to come back, win this game, but even if they stumble here, like 2017, that they're good enough to win the Atlantic, march on to the championship. They are the only top 10 type team that has that kind of look, Miami has the potential. We'll see how N'Kosi Perry develops, but the ACC is a mishmash of teams in both divisions that are top 40 or 50 teams. North Carolina State, Virginia, Georgia Tech, Pitt, Duke may distinguish itself. We thought Virginia Tech was going to be better. They lost to Old Dominion. The amount of losses and scares and narrow wins and meaningless wins by the ACC is mounting. The database for the ACC is pretty bad. I agree with you, Mitch. Game day going to Notre Dame, Syracuse in New York City. #1 ND fan making a call a number of weeks in advance. The call-in number is 860, sense of tumor, 860-325-3687. I'm going to wrap things up before the end of the half. Hopefully. We'll see. If you guys have something good to say, of course, we'll stay on the line, but I want to watch football. 860-325-3687. And we'll see if that call comes in, and I'm going to run through the rest of my notes. I don't want to waste my notes because I started, as was recommended by Bash Gaming, to watch West Virginia and Texas Tech, the most meaningful in-conference game we thought to start the day. Will Grier came out on fire. He started this game having thrown for 300 yards in 12 of 14 starts at West Virginia, and he was well on his way after a first quarter in which he ripped up the Red Raider defense for 174 yards, and he was throwing some darts and some lasers in this game. His 45-yard touchdown pass down the left sideline to Marcus Sims is a thing of beauty. I thought right then, Heisman Trophy type performance right here. I know it's a bad defense, but my goodness, Will Grier was exceptional in the first half against Texas Tech, and the Mountaineers lead this one 28-10. MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, this is Sense of Tumor.
Sense of Tumor. How are you?
Good. Just, people talking about Bama playing a pancake. Look, I don't like Bama playing pancake teams. I was more excited last week when they were going up against Texas A&M. However, being a Bama fan, I'm not a big fan of Clemson, so I'm loving it. It's karma right in the face. Trevor Lawrence gets popped. Dabo's trying to call back Kelly Bryant. He's nowhere to be found. So I'm happy about that. And I think they're going to lose this game, man. It's just like it's 2 years in a row. Texas losing to Maryland 2 years in a row. Clemson losing to Syracuse 2 years in a row. So quickly, also this. Look what Nick Saban did with Jalen Hurts and Tua.
As an Alabama fan, Sense of Tumor, not to interrupt here, I'll let you continue your point, but if you're going to start on the narrative of back-to-back losses to somebody, we'll also throw in Alabama to Ole Miss back-to-back. We could do that as well.
Damn, you brought it up. You're right.
I know the score, so you can't usually slip those by me. Keep going, man. It's a great point.
You're too polished, man. You know too much, but I like that about you.
Appreciate that. I didn't want to interrupt. My bad. You keep going. You were on a roll. I enjoyed it. Keep going.
You know what? You know what though, bro?
Yep.
Certain teams have your number. certain teams have your number.
Yeah, you were. I try to make this point all the time, Sense of Tumor. Alabama, those 2 years, were they better than Ole Miss? Absolutely. If they would have played Ole Miss every game of the season 12 times, they would have beat them 10 or 11 out of 12. But on a particular game, just like Syracuse did to Clemson last year, just like they're doing today, and I doubt that Syracuse is going to prove over the course of the season that they're better, and we've seen it over and over and over, that it can happen. And people ridicule me for making upset predictions. But I outlined before the start of the noon games today, we've had 5 or 6 upsets against the spread, outright upsets every week this season. And this might be another one.
And I love upsets. What if every team, excluding Bama, because I'm a Bama fan, what if every team that was supposed to win won? It'd be boring.
Absolutely.
I like upsets. But tell me if I'm wrong. Dabble Sweeney continues to play Bryant. Yes, Bryant did help them get their best win this year. Texas A&M more than Trevor did.
Yep.
Continue to play Bryant all year. You can play Bryant for 1 quarter. As long as the kid starts, he's a senior. You don't want to hurt his pride. Put Trevor in, give Trevor all the time he needs, whatever. And they got a pancake schedule anyway. Well, right now it doesn't look that way, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do.
It's supposed to be, yeah. Okay, so continue to play Kelly Bryant, start him, I'm saying. Meanwhile, put Trevor in, get him snaps, get him, experience, and you don't have this issue right now. I think he handled it the wrong way. Look at what Nick Saban did. He just started Tua, but Jalen Hurts, and I'm not sure if you're watching the Bama game, Jalen Hurts threw 3 or 4 good passes.
Do you think I'm really watching the Bama game today? I've got like 5 decent games ongoing. I gotta watch everybody else play. This is the one week that I'm definitely not watching Bama play. I just need them to cover 49 points. But you make a great point, because you guard yourself against injury. You protect the reputation of the senior, the guy that's gotten you there.
Yeah.
And Jalen Hurts had investment in the bank. He had equity in that program that Nick Saban respected on a public level to say, hey, this kid has worked hard. Yes, I know the football limitations of what he's doing to our offense in the passing game, but he's 27-2. If Deshaun Watson doesn't do what he pulled off, maybe he's a national champion. And he's a hard worker. He hasn't done anything wrong and conducted himself well. And he's maxed out his potential. And we've got such a good team around him that we can manage this and still develop Tua. And Tua threw about 75 passes last year before the playoffs. So he had reps, and then he was ready to step in and deliver when he needed to. It's a great point.
It's his senior year. Come on, man. Senior year.
Yeah, well, these coaches don't get paid to make people feel good. Let's understand that as well. So there's a balancing act there. It's not the pros, it's not the NFL, but at the same time, we're not playing intramurals. They're getting paid $5 and $7 million per year, and if they don't win, they're gone. Mark Richt is gone after going 10-3 at Georgia his final season. So.
I like Mark Richt too.
I like him too. He's a good guy.
Yeah. Well, all I'm saying, I think Bama's in good hands, because I know you're not watching the game. You'll probably see a highlight. I'm just saying they already called it. Dan Enos needs a lot of credit, because he turned Jalen Hurts from a guy that could run, who thought he could pass, to a guy that can run, that can pass better than what he's done the last 2 years. The guy can make passes now. All I need is a decent backup, because Tua is kind of injury prone. I'm not sure if you've noticed it. He's been banged up a few in these 4 or 5 games. He's been kind of banged up. So we have a guy that can make select passes, maybe not as good as a Trevor Lawrence or Tua or what's his name, Haskins.
Sure.
But Hurts can come in and make passes now, and I'm just happy. We got 2 quarterbacks.
Can we distinguish something here, Sense of Tumor? Can we distinguish something? And I haven't seen anything except one play of the first half of the Bama game, and that was the play where, who was it? Was it Judy? No, it was somebody broke free on a crossing route, Ruggs across the middle, and then he ran through 3 guys like they were nothing around the 10-yard line. It looked like I was trying to tackle him. Except I'd still be laying out there with a broken collarbone, but it looked like I was trying to tackle him. Like I thought, this is a wide receiver. Okay, these guys, not 3 of them couldn't bring him down. Anyway,
I was surprised too.
Okay,
it was pathetic. You're right.
We could take just about any quarterback, probably every quarterback that plays FBS, maybe not the Service Academy quarterbacks, and throw them out on a high school field and just say throw against air, and the ball would look pretty, and they would throw it well, and it would look nice, and it'd have velocity. They can throw with velocity for the most part, not at the highest levels like NFL scouts would drool, but for fans to watch, they can throw the ball. So Jalen Hurts throwing the ball in space when guys are wide open, and you saying that he can throw the ball. Absolutely, he can throw a football, but playing the position of quarterback and being a passing quarterback are 2 different things. Tua, as you know better than I do from watching all the games, can anticipate the throws. He puts it in places where the wide receivers are either protected from the DB, or he's throwing it to where he's throwing them open, or if they're open on a crossing route, he puts it right in their lap where they don't break stride. It's just a different level of passing attack with him at the controls.
By far, you are right about that. It's not even close.
Yeah, if you went out to Bryant-Denny Stadium with nobody on the field and you personally ran a post route and had Jalen Hurts throw you the ball, it would look great. He'd throw it 55 yards, and it would look, he'd throw a tight spiral and it'd hit you right in the numbers and it'd be fine. But in terms of all sorts of colors flashing in front of him and him having to make a decision in a split second are 2 different things.
Now, if we go to LSU and we go up, and if Jalen Hurts comes in and he starts making decent passes, can I get a "I told you so" from you?
Absolutely, you can. Absolutely.
Right.
Well, it's not like the guy's been completely incapable throwing the ball. He just throws safe passes. He lets his 5 stars do what they can do in space. He looks at one guy and then he pulls it down and runs, where Tua goes through the progressions and throws guys open and does all those things. Well, the guy threw like 17 touchdowns and 1 pick last year. It's not that he's completely incompetent. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that there are 20 to 25 quarterbacks in the nation that are better than he is, where Tua is arguably the best.
Probably more.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna say this too. I really don't have any faith in Jalen Hurts in a big game, as far as like in a championship game against Clemson or hold on, against Clemson or Georgia, or in a championship game setting.
Sure. I think we lost sense of humor. I think he had to go on us. I think we have to go as well. We've got Syracuse, Clemson. It's suddenly intriguing with Clemson with the football to open the 3rd quarter. Chase Bryce, starting quarterback, momentarily in the game for Clemson. Trevor Lawrence banged up, a possible head trauma type situation in the locker room, but Clemson's going to lean on this running game. Tavian Feaster, Travis Etienne, Rashard Choice. Did I call him Rashard? Adam Choice. There was a Rashard Choice. Anyway, Choice, Feaster, and Etienne for the Clemson Tigers. So they're going to lean on this run and look to this offensive line, this veteran offensive line led by Mitch Hyatt, to bring them home to a victory and then reassess the quarterback situation. And, of course, Bryce is going to have to throw the ball at some point, but it's only a 9-point game. Clemson has played not well, but not horribly. They haven't made crucial mistakes. They've just gotten beaten. It's not like they've muffed punts and given away deflected balls, wide receivers dropping passes and tipping them up in the air. They haven't gifted Clemson or Syracuse the first half. They've been outplayed in the first half, and you can see that the offensive line, this is when the offensive line has to take charge and say, hey, we need to keep, for the 10 passes that we hope that Bryce only needs to throw in the second half, we need to keep him clean so he can make the check down and the easy throws. And the rest of the time, we need to lean on that defensive front. And this running game needs to be 150-yard rushing attack in the second half, and we're going to win this game 23-21, something like that. I'm not doing the math on the score, but we're going to win by, less than a touchdown, because it's going to be that kind of game. We're going to run through 5 and 6 minute drives and run the ball 10 of 12 plays on the drive. That's what we need to do to take control of this game and win it ugly against a pretty game Syracuse team that's looking to go to 5-0. Where am I going to rank them if they go to 5-0 and beat Clemson? Holy mackerel. All right. It was good to have everybody on the line for this Trevor Lawrence update at halftime. We've got a number of great scores, and I took all these notes, I guess, for halftime. Enjoy the second half. Syracuse, Clemson. This seems to be the big one. West Virginia's in control. Texas A&M, last check, was in control. Don't forget about North Carolina State, Virginia. Interesting game there in terms of who's going to be a possible team that can stick around in their division race. Virginia's already got an ACC win. And, of course, a number of other games that will kick off at 3:30. We'll probably come back right around that time to wrap up the noon games, get you set for 3:30 and break into that window. Tennessee, Georgia, Kansas State, and Texas, and a few other teams kicking off at 3:30, including Florida State. Can they get their act together? Can Louisville get its act together? I guess one of them have to today, as Bobby Petrino and Willie Taggart match wits. And I'm probably getting some chuckles out there at that line. We will see you soon. Voice of College Football, Mark Rogers TV. If you're watching and have not subscribed, just click the one button, then go watch football. We will see you soon.